Hey, I'm bankruptcy attorney Matt McCune. Welcome to the Bankruptcy Show, the show your creditors really don't want you to watch or listen to. We're going to break down the facts about debt and bankruptcy, showing you what your legal rights really are and giving you the information that you need to take care of yourself and your family. Let's get into today's episode. Okay, welcome to episode 1 of Screw 'Em Don't Pay. The idea behind this show is really that we'll be able to educate people across the nation. Here's what bankruptcy looks like. Common questions that folks have, they'll be able to come, and hopefully easily search through different show chapters and get to that point. And we're going to kind of pull the curtain back behind, and you can see what's happening behind the scene in the entire consumer bankruptcy space. We're going to talk to lawyers and debtors and the experts, and maybe we'll get some judges on here, and I think it'll be fascinating to kind of put a spotlight on what is this huge entire world and incredibly important to millions and millions of Americans. So that's the plan. Before we kind of jump into specifics about how bankruptcy works, there's kind of this looming philosophical question in this world, when people start to explore bankruptcy. And the question really is, should you pay your bills, right? When you file bankruptcy, you're not paying a lot of your bills. You're wiping out the legal responsibility and moving on with your life. So, a lot of strong opinions about it. A lot of trolls with bullshit that have no idea what they're talking about. But it's a huge question to start this show with. Should you pay your bills? And generally speaking, and this is coming from a bankruptcy attorney that's been doing this almost 25 years, I think the answer to that is yes, right? If you can, you should pay your bills, right? I think most reasonable people can agree on that. But that's a really simple question. The reality is life is a lot more complicated than that. So, we're going to take a step back and try to unravel that just a little bit. So, what if you can't pay your bills? Those are the easy ones to answer, right? So, or you weren't able to in the past, and you got so far behind on them that you're now facing foreclosure, garnishment, lawsuit, repossession, that sort of stuff. Like that's the easy decision for those folks to make. I don't want to lose my house to foreclosure. My God, what do I do? Backs against the wall. And there's a large segment of debtors. The debtor is what we refer to the person going through the bankruptcy process, filing the bankruptcy, seeking help. A lot of debtors, and I would say, gosh, it's almost probably 40 to 50% of people that the back is against the wall. They've done everything they can do. They've probably been behind for a while. Most likely they've probably had their head in the sand for longer than they should have. And they let it get too far, and now they're scrambling, with their car about to disappear, maybe their home, wages, things are looking bad. So for those people, look, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Those are the easy decisions to make. At some point they couldn't pay their bills, and then the natural consequences of that played out over months, year or so, and here they are. Fuck, I need to save my house. I can't lose my house. I got to go bankrupt. The more complicated spot to be in is someone that is able to actually pay their bills, but they're barely making it, right? And so then the logical question becomes, at what cost do I have to pay my bills, right? Like, am I required to, if I owe $50,000, $60,000 in credit cards, and now some of my interest rates are pushing in the high 20s, right? Like, am I really required to pay back like 5 times what I owe? Right? Like, wait a second. Here's an exercise I tell people to do a lot when I talk to them. I say, we figure out, here's what you owe. Let's say they owe $50,000. What are your minimums? Let's say their minimums are pushing $2,500 a month or whatever. So, okay, so if they keep paying their minimums of $2,500 a month, if they do that, well, with under 2 years, they should have paid. They paid $50,000 back, right? They paid them. I paid you, man. But this is the power of what I refer to as predatory lending rates, right? I mean, shouldn't be allowed to lend money at 20+%, right? It's bullshit. Historically, it wasn't something that you could do. In the old days, our grandparents, there was a term for it. It was called usury. It was illegal to charge above a certain reasonable interest rate. Well, those rules are gone. The corporations are in control. So, I owe 50 grand, right? I pay $2,500 for, call it ballpark 2 years. I've paid way more than $50,000, but guess what? I still fucking owe $50,000 because I was just paying the interest on it. And that's the point where I always try to advise people to say, hey, wait a second. Let's take a step back. Like, are you really required to sacrifice everything that you had hoped to accomplish in your life, right? Buy a home, start a family. Are you really required to do that? To pay Wells Fargo more money? Nah, I don't know. Look, I can tell you what my answer was. My story when it comes to my bankruptcy, and I was my own first client, right? I filed my bankruptcy pretty quick out of law school. I had gotten to the point in law school where this was the stock market boom of the .com craze, and I was a young dipshit and learned what a margin call was and got wiped out and had a bunch of debt. So, I wasn't able to pay while I was in law school. My plan became, hey, look, I'm going to graduate, I'll get a job, and I'll start to chip away at this. Well, 9/11 happened, the legal market was terrible, no one was hiring. I was so far behind on my creditors that, like lawsuits were pending and that sort of stuff. And so I made a strategic decision. Could I have paid them back? I suppose if I would have slogged and slogged for years and years and years, my credit was already shot though, right? I mean, the point was I was so far down in the hole that at some point when I kind of started looking into bankruptcy and figuring it out, I was like, fuck it, man. I'm taking the shortcut to starting over. And for me, it was by far one of the best decisions I ever made. Now, everyone's bankruptcy story is not going to be what mine is. I mean, like, I got an entire career out of it. Now I'm like this, renowned expert in this, building an entire technology platform designed at helping other people do the same thing. But that's unlikely to be your story if you're seeking relief in our bankruptcy system. But at the end of the day, I made, what I refer to as a good business decision, right? And that's what the fucking corporations do. When they get in trouble, what do you think they do? They make, we determined it was a good business decision to, stop paying all our bills. And that's basically what happened in 2008, 9, and 10. And guess what happened? Well, Uncle Sam came to the rescue because God forbid the banks fail. Can't have that, right? Well, there's no bailout coming for you. So, for those folks that are just kind of head in the sand, plowing forward, the strategy is hope, right? And that's what they're literally just hoping that at some point something miraculous comes along, and rarely does it. And for those folks that, it's not so obvious that a bankruptcy is coming, but for a lot of them it is. And the sooner that they can get to that decision point, the better off they're going to be, the better off their family's going to be. They're going to get to credit repair quicker. They're going to move on with their life quicker. Psychologically, they're going to be way better. There's just no question in terms of math, right? If we're talking about money that you owe, math, bankruptcy is miraculous in what it does. There can be no doubt about that. So, should you pay your bills? Yeah. Generally speaking, if you can, and it's manageable, and it doesn't, like, you're not kind of in debt prison, Pay your bills, right? And look, I take these calls all the time. People come, they got a certain asset that may not be protected or whatever. Hey, man, sell your ski condo, dude. Sell your ski condo and pay your bills. But there are protections, and we're going to do a deep dive on that, on assets that are protected. Your ski condo that you don't live in as your home is not going to be protected, but your home is going to be up to certain levels depending on which state you live in. So, I think it's a philosophical question that a lot of folks go through, and I get it, and I respect the fact that it's hard, right? We're so hard on ourselves, but ultimately, if you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice. That's the easy decision. But for those folks that kind of feel like they have a choice, you might not. It might be a foregone conclusion, and I really encourage you to explore your options. And then for even those point that it might not be a foregone conclusion, that maybe could work their way out of it, why not explore your options, right? See what might be available to you through a legal process that you are entitled to. There's a reason we have this. And if you think the corporations apologize when they file Chapter 11 bankruptcy and people get fired and pensions get wrecked and all that sort of stuff, hell no. We made the best decision in the interest of the shareholders. All right, well, your family is your shareholders who you're responsible for. Make the best decision you can for them and then move forward with your life. Hey man, I'm excited about this show. This is going to be amazing. We're going to drop major knowledge. We're going to talk to the best in the field. This is going to be an incredible resource for any American that's looking to explore what their debt options are. And thank you so much for watching. And more to come on the Screw 'em Don't Pay show.